So yesterday we were studying the properties of colloids. So first important property, optical property. In optical property we have studied what is Tyndall effect. What is Tyndall effect? Scattering of light by the colloidal particles is known as Tyndall effect. So one mark questions will be asked like this. And the second property is electrical property kinetic property. In kinetic property we will know what is Brownian moment. What is Brownian moment? The zigzag movement of colloidal particles in the dispersion medium is known as Brownian moment. Why Brownian movement is due to? Brownian movement is due to continuous bombardment of dispersed phase particles with dispersion medium particles. So on what factor the Brownian movement depends on? The Brownian movement depends upon the size of the particles and the viscosity of the solution. If the size of the particle is less and viscosity is less, Brownian movement will be more. So Brownian movement is also responsible for the stability of the colloidal solution. So today we will study another property, namely electrical property. So in electrical properties, first we know what is charge on the colloidal particles. So for example, if you take any solution, say for example, colloidal solution. So this is arsenious sulfide salt, As2S3 salt. So sol means it contains colloidal particles along with dispersion medium. So these are the colloidal particles dispersed in water. So according to electrical property, the first point is all colloidal particles carry either positive or negative charge. All colloidal particles in the colloidal solution carry either positive or negative charge. The charge on the particles is responsible for the stability of the salt. So what is the meaning of this one? Suppose this is a arsenious sulfide salt. So all arsenious sulfide particles carry negative charges. So all colloidal particles carry either positive charge or negative charge. So charge on the colloidal particles is responsible for the stability of the salt, because for the colloidal particles to precipitate, what they have to do, these particles unite together, grow in size and then settle down, is it not? So if one particle goes near another particle, because of like charges, these particles repel each other and they do not form aggregates, therefore they will be in the colloidal form only. That is the meaning of that one. That means charge on the colloid. All colloidal particles carry either positive charges or negative charges. Charge on the colloidal particles is responsible for their stability. For example, all arsenious sulfide salt particles carry negative charges. Therefore, arsenious sulfide salt is a negative salt. Similarly, coming to ferric hydroxide salt, FeOH thrice salt. So here all ferric hydroxide particles carry positive charges because of the adsorption of Fe3 plus ions. So all these particles carry positive charges. Therefore, arsenious sulfide salt is a positive salt. So it is a positive salt. So this is the first point. colloidal particles carry either positive charges or negative charges. The charge on the colloidal particle is responsible for the stability because the like charges repel each other. Second point is, if the colloidal particles carry positive charge, the medium, here it is dispersion medium, carry negative charge and vice versa. So if the particles carry negative charge, the dispersion medium carry positive charge. So medium is positively charged. If the particles carry positive charge, the medium carries negative charge, so that the solution as a whole is electrically neutral. So that the solution, that means colloidal solution as a whole is electrically neutral. So solution as a whole is electrically neutral. If the particles carry positive charges, the medium carry negative charges and vice versa. So solution, colloidal solution as a whole is electrically neutral. So third point, how the particles acquire charges. The charge on the colloidal particles is due to these points, is due to the electron capture, during electrodispersion of metals. So I told you, during the preparation of gold salt by Bradig's arc method, an electric arc is produced between two metals. At the high temperature of the arc, the metal vaporizes, and then the atoms or molecules are condensed in the medium in the form of colloidal particles. So during that dispersion, particles along with electrons are liberated, then these electrons will get adsorbed on the particles and they are converted into charged particles, which are called colloidal particles. So first point is the electron capture during electrodispersion of metal, and number two, the formation of electrical double layer, and number three, due to the preferential adsorption of ions from the colloidal solution, common to the particles. So what is the meaning of this one? So the charge on the colloidal particle is due to, number one, electron capture. If the atoms or molecules capture electron, they are converted into negatively charged particles, and due to formation of electrical double layer during the preferential adsorption, they will adsorb one type of ions, then the oppositely charged ions will get adsorbed. So third point, due to the preferential adsorption of ions from the colloidal solution common to the particle. Say for example, during the preparation of ferric hydroxide salt, when ferric chloride is added into water, added into water, you will get FeOH thrice salt due to hydrolysis. So when ferric chloride is added into water, you will get ferric hydroxide salt. Here ferric ions are adsorbed. Ferric ions are adsorbed on the surface of the molecule and the salt becomes positive charge. On the other hand, if ferric chloride is added into sodium hydroxide solution, you will get ferric hydroxide salt. Here OH minus ions are adsorbed on the surface of the ferric hydroxide molecule and the salt becomes negative salt. So when ferric chloride is added into water, ferric ions will be adsorbed on the particles and the salt becomes positive charge. Similarly, when ferric chloride is added into sodium hydroxide solution, OH minus ions get adsorbed on the particles and the salt becomes negative salt. So these ions, the adsorbed ions, are common to the ions of the particles. Here ferric ions are common, here OH minus ions are common. That is the meaning of adsorption ion common to the ions of the particle. So this is how the colloidal particles acquire charges. So these are the 3 points we have to bear in your mind. All colloidal particles carry charges, and then colloidal particles carry either positive charges. If these particles carry negative charges, solution carry the oppositely charged ions. So charge on the colloidal particles is due to following 3 points: due to electron capture, due to formation of electrical double layer, and also due to the preferential adsorption of ions from the colloidal solution common to the ions in the particles. So that is the meaning of that one. I have told you some salts carry positive charges and some salts carry negative charges. So let us have some examples. Examples for positive salts. Examples for positive salts. Number 1, ferric hydroxide salt. Number 2, hydrated oxides. Hydrated oxides, namely Al2O3, XH2O, aluminum oxide, Fe2O3, XH2O, ferric oxide, Cr2O3, XH2O, chromic oxide, etc. Ferric hydroxide is a positive salt. Hydrated oxides like aluminum oxide, ferric oxide, chromic oxides, etc. are positive salts. Third one, hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, which is a blood is a colloidal solution in which hemoglobin is present. It is a positive salt. And fourth one is basic dyestuffs. Basic dyestuffs like methylene blue, etc. are some of the examples for positive salt. Ferric hydroxide salt is a positive salt. In all these colloidal solutions, the particles carry positive charges. Hemoglobin is a positive salt. Basic dyestuffs like methylene blue is an example for positive salt. Similarly, examples for negative salt. Number 1, all metal salts are negatively charged. Negative salts. Example, gold salt, silver salt, etc. are negative salts. Number 2, As2S3, arsenious sulfide sol, cadmium sulfide sol, etc. are negative sols. Third one, sols means a colloidal dispersion of solid in liquid are called sols. Sols of starch and then gum, albumin, charcoal, clay, etc. are negatively charged salts. Starch, gum, gelatin, albumin, charcoal, clay, etc. are gelatin, etc. are negative salts. And lastly, acidic disturbs like eosine, indigo, red. Congo red salts, eosine, Congo red salts are the examples for negative salts. So all metal salts are negative salts. Arsenious sulfide, As2S3, cadmium sulfides are negative. Salts of starch, gum, albumin, charcoal, clay, gelatin, etc. are negative salts. And lastly, acidic disturbs, namely eosine, Congo red, etc. are negative salts. So under electrical property, we have to study electrophoresis. This is also very important. What is electrophoresis? So what is electrophoresis? Suppose this is a U-tube containing arsenious sulfide sol, which is a negative sol. So in this U-tube, this is anode and this one is cathode. So when electric current is passed between anode and cathode, what happens? The colloidal particles will move towards the anode, and after reaching the anode, the particles loses the charges and converted into precipitate and settle at the surface of the anode. So this movement of colloidal particles under the influence of an electric field towards the oppositely charged electrode is known as electrophoresis. So here, what is arsenious sulfide sol? Arsenious sulfide sol is a negative sol. It moved towards anode. So negatively charged particles move towards anode. On the other hand, if you take ferric hydroxide sol is a positive sol. Instead of arsenious oxide, if you take ferric hydroxide sol, it is a positive sol. The movement of the colloidal particle is towards cathode. Because the particles carry positive charge, they move towards cathode, that is negatively charged electrode. That movement of the colloidal particles is also called as electrophoresis. Now what is the definition of electrophoresis? The movement of colloidal particles under the influence of electric field towards the oppositely charged electrode is called electrophoresis. The movement of the colloidal particles under the influence of an electric field towards the oppositely charged electrode is called electrophoresis. If the movement is towards cathode, if the movement is towards cathode, it is called cataphoresis. If the movement is towards anode, it is called anaphoresis. Anaphoresis. If the movement is towards cathode, it is called cataphoresis. If the movement is towards anode, it is called anaphoresis. So, for example, arsenious sulfide salt is a negative salt, it moves towards anode, it is anaphoresis. If the salt is ferric hydroxide salt, positive salt, it moves towards cathode, it is called cataphoresis. So, from this experiment, we will have some informations. The use of the experiment. Use of the experiment. What is this experiment? Electrophoresis experiment. So, from this experiment, what we can get? We can come to the conclusion that colloidal particles carry charges. So, from this experiment, we can show that colloidal particles carry charges, and also we can determine the nature of the charge, whether they carry positive charge or they carry negative charge. If the movement is towards anode, they carry negative charges. If the movement is towards cathode, they carry positive charges. So, this is the first use. By this experiment, we can show that colloidal particles carry charges. Colloidal particles carry charges. Next, the direction of the movement of the particles. Movement of the particles indicates the nature of the charge. Nature of the charge. So, if the movement is towards anode, they carry negative charge. If the movement is towards cathode, they carry positive charge, like that. So, example, As2S3 salt move towards anode. So, what it indicates? The particles carry negative charge. So, FeOH thrice salt move towards cathode. What it indicates? The particles carry positive charge, like that. And number 2, from this experiment we can come to the conclusion that after reaching the electrode, the particles loses the charges or transfer the charges to the electrode, and they are converted into precipitate. What this indicate? The charge on the colloidal particle is responsible for the stability of the salt. If they loses the charges, they are converted into precipitate. So, ultimately we can say that the charge on the colloidal particles is responsible for their stability. If the charge is removed, they are converted into precipitate. So, if the charge is removed, they are converted into precipitate. So, that is the conclusion. Now, we will know another property, namely electroosmosis. I told you, if the particles carry positive charge, the medium carry negative charge, and vice versa, so that the solution as a whole is electrically neutral. Now what is electroosmosis? So the movement of colloidal particles is known as electrophoresis. If the movement of the colloidal particle is restricted or prevented, the dispersion medium itself will move towards oppositely charged electrode. That movement is known as electroosmosis. When the movement of the medium takes place, if the movement of the colloidal particles is prevented or restricted, the dispersion medium itself move towards oppositely charged electrode, that is known as electroosmosis. What is the definition? The movement of the dispersion medium under the influence of electric field towards the oppositely charged electrode, when the movement of the colloidal particles is prevented. This is very important. The movement of the colloidal particles should be prevented, is called electroosmosis. So this is the definition of, you have to define the definition of dialysis, electrodialysis, and then purification by ultrafiltration, and then what is Tyndall effect, and then Brownian movement, electrophoresis, electroosmosis. So 1 mark definition will be asked. So now we will study what is coagulation or flocculation of colloids. Say for example, this is a sol. Say colloidal particles are suspended in dispersion medium. So it is a sol. So if the particles are made to settle down, they are converted into precipitate, is it not? So this is precipitate. So the process of settling down of the colloidal particles, or the process of precipitation of colloidal particles, is known as coagulation or flocculation. So the process of precipitation of colloidal particles, the process of precipitation or settling down of colloidal particles is known as coagulation or flocculation. The process of settling down of colloidal particles or precipitation of colloidal particles is known as coagulation. So you will be asked, this is very important, methods of coagulation or flocculation. So you will be asked what are the methods, or name any 2 or 3 methods for the coagulation or flocculation of colloids. So the precipitation of colloids or coagulation of colloids or flocculation of colloids can be done by the following methods. One is by electrophoresis. Number 2, by boiling. Number 3, by mutual coagulation. And number 4, by the addition of excess of electrolyte by the addition of electrolyte. So these are the four methods available for the precipitation of salts. So what is the first method? I have already told that electrophoresis. During electrophoresis, colloidal particles after reaching the electrode loses the charges and aggregates and converted into precipitate, that is known as by electrophoresis. And then second one is by boiling. When colloidal solutions are boiled, they are converted into precipitate. Third one and fourth one are important. So we will study coagulation or flocculation. So what is the third method? Mutual coagulation. Mutual coagulation of colloids. So what is mutual coagulation? Say for example, here is arsenious sulfide salt. This is As2S3 salt. What is the nature of this salt? It is a negative salt. Here also same quantity of positive salt. Say this is FeOH thrice salt. It is a positive salt. So when equal volume of oppositely charged salts are mixed, what happens? The charge get neutralized and as a result both the salts will be precipitated. This is known as mutual coagulation. So when oppositely charged salts are mixed in equal proportions, when oppositely charged salts are mixed in equal proportions, the charge of both the salts get neutralized and both the salts get precipitated. This is mutual coagulation. So when oppositely charged salts are mixed in equal proportion, charge of both the salts get neutralized. As a result, both the salts get precipitated. This is known as mutual coagulation. And now we will study how coagulation can be done by addition of electrolyte. So coagulation of salts by the addition of electrolyte. Say for example, so we have got arsenious sulfide salt. So we have arsenious sulfide salt. What is the charge on arsenious sulfide particles? This is As2S3 salt. The particles carry negative charges. because As2S3 salt is a negative salt. So for the precipitation of this negative salt, I will add an electrolyte like sodium chloride. Sodium chloride contains both positively charged sodium ions and negatively charged chloride ions. So when an electrolyte is added into a salt, the colloidal particles will attract the oppositely charged ions of the electrolyte. Here arsenious sulfide particles are negatively charged. They get attracted by sodium ions which carries positive charge. Here now the charge on the colloidal particles get neutralized, and the particles after losing the charges unite together, grow in their size and settle down at the bottom. This is what is known as coagulation. So how coagulation can be achieved by the addition of an electrolyte? When a colloidal solution is treated with an electrolyte, the colloidal particles gets attracted by the oppositely charged ion of the electrolyte, the charge get neutralized and the particles are precipitated. So, for the neutralization of negative salt, positive ions of the electrolytes are effective. Similarly, for the precipitation of positive salt, say for example, we will consider another salt which is positive salt, namely ferric hydroxide salt. Ferric hydroxide salt is a positive salt, arsenious sulfide salt is a negative salt. So suppose if I add sodium chloride contains sodium ions and chloride ions. So for the precipitation of positive salt, negative ion of the electrolytes are more effective. So these positively charged particles attracts the negative ions of the electrolyte, thereby the charge gets neutralized. After losing the charge, the particles get precipitated. This is precipitation by addition of electrolyte. For the precipitation of negative salt, positive ion of the electrolyte are effective. Similarly, for the precipitation of positive salt, negative ions of the electrolytes are important. So this is the meaning of coagulation by the addition of electrolyte. So now we will study what is Hardy-Schulze rule. So as I have told you, precipitation of colloidal particles can be done by the addition of electrolyte. For the precipitation of negative salt, positive ions are effective. Similarly, for the precipitation of positive salt, negative ions are effective. So suppose this is negative salt, sodium ions, positive ions are effective. This is positive salt, negative ions are effective. So what the Hardy-Schulze rule says? So for example, for the precipitation of this negative salt, we can add sodium chloride, barium chloride, aluminum chloride. So precipitation of this negative salt can be done by the addition of an electrolyte, sodium chloride, barium chloride or aluminum chloride. So here what is the valency of sodium? 1 plus, barium 2 plus, aluminum 3 plus. For the precipitation of negative salt, positive ions are important. So what the Hardy-Schulze rule says? higher the valency of the precipitating ion, higher is the precipitating power. So, precipitating power depends upon the valency of the precipitating ion. Here, which is the precipitating ion? For the precipitation of negative salt, positive ions are precipitating ions. Similarly, for the precipitation of positive salts, negative ions are the precipitating ions. So, next, higher the valency of the precipitating ion, greater is its precipitating power. So, this is the statement. What is the statement of Hardy-Schou's rule? Higher the valency of the precipitating, higher the valency of the precipitating ion of the electrolyte, comma, higher is its precipitating power, precipitating power. So, higher the valency of the precipitating ion of the electrolyte, higher is its precipitating power. This is Hardy-Schou's rule. So, for example, for the precipitation of As2S3 salt, As2S3 salt, which is a negative salt, the precipitating power of various ions are in the order of, for example, Al3 plus, its valency is more, precipitating power is also more, Ba2 plus, and then Na plus. So, this is the order of precipitating power of the ions. So, higher the valency, higher is the precipitating power. Since aluminum valency is more, its precipitating power is more. When compared to bivalent ion barium, its valency decreases, precipitating power also decreases. And lastly, monovalent ions, sodium ions. Number 2, similarly, for the precipitation of FeOH thrice salt, it is a positive salt. Which ions are effective? Negative ions are effective. Ions are effective. So, similarly for the precipitation of As2S3 negative salt, positive ions are effective. So, the precipitation power of various negative ions are in the, for the precipitation, are in the order of, say for example, FeCN6 4 minus is more powerful than PO4 3 minus, which are more powerful than SO4 2 minus, which are more powerful than Cl minus. So, as the valency increases, the precipitating power also increases. So, this is Hardy-Schou's rules. So, first you have to bear in your mind that for the precipitation of a negative salt, positive ion of the electrolytes are effective. For the precipitation of positive salt, negative ion of the electrolytes are important. So, according to Hardy-Schou's rule, higher the valency of the precipitating ion, greater is its precipitating power. Higher the valency, greater is its precipitating power. So, for the precipitation of negative salt, positive ions of the electrolytes are effective. So higher the valency of the positive ions, greater is its precipitating power. Therefore, the precipitating power of aluminum is greater than barium or greater than sodium. So you will be asked in the examination. So arrange the in the increasing or decreasing order of their precipitating power. Ali, what we have to observe is you have to observe the valency of the ions. If the valency is more, precipitating power is more. If the valency is less, precipitating power is also less. Similarly, for the precipitation of positive salt, negative ions are effective. You have to observe the valency of negative ions. Here the valency of negative ion is 4 minus, which is more powerful than 3 minus, which is more powerful than 2 minus, which is more powerful than single minus. So this is Orts-Southey rule. This is very important from your examination point of view.